All right, guys, welcome to week 3. This is what week 3 looks like. So here you are in a live session. We are going to create a identity package and color palette this week. That's just one thing that you're doing, really. And that's what's going to be due Sunday. So of all the 3-4 weeks of the class, this is probably going to be the easier one, a little easier, a little more focused. As usual, you're going to post your work in progress to the discussion by Thursday, provide some peer feedback, incorporate all that great work into your final product that you're going to submit on Sunday. This is incorrect. It should say week 3 brand ID. Sorry. So there it is, week 3, identity package. So what's an identity package, right? Well, when you're a graphic designer, an identity package is a specific thing that everyone kind of expects. Like once you do the logo, you create elements of the brand, what we call touch points. And the first thing is usually these things: business card, letterhead, and envelope. And I have current present day clients. I have to create these same items all the time. Now, nowadays, you would also probably create a Facebook cover image, a YouTube cover image, icons for use on the web. And there are many, many other things that you would create as part of an identity. But because we're sort of focusing in on these traditional items and they're not irrelevant, people still need them. And this is a student example. Now, what you're doing in this project is taking your logo, your newly created logo, adding color, and creating a look for the overall brand. Once you start to establish the look, it becomes a lot more fun. Identity is often interchanged with the logo, but identity really means sort of like you have your brand and then you have sort of the way it's expressed. So there's lots of different elements to identity, and we're just focusing on a few of them. A few years ago, there was like a group who they stormed a Best Buy. Everyone wore blue polo shirts and khakis, and it freaked everyone out because they all looked like they worked there, right? But of course, when you go to Best Buy, you see the guy in the blue shirt with the yellow logo, and you know that they work there. You can ask them questions. This is all part of experiencing a brand. This is a project done by Michael Beirut from Pentagram for Bobby's Burger Palace. And you can see the logo kind of looks like a burger. But it also has a color palette, which kind of reflects like ketchup and mustard, a little bit of lettuce. And they carry that through into the store. So you see that color palette there on the signage, on all the packaging elements, and on the business card. It starts to have a cohesive look, and that gives you a bit of a sense of confidence. This company, Neoflex, has all these different items. So here's these outdoor banners. There's an interior sign, a presentation template, a printed piece, and a billboard. Now, these all feel like they go together, right? What are they doing that makes it all be cohesive? What makes it hang together?
They're using the same color palette?
Yes, the color palette for sure. It goes a long way. Now, if you get more granular about it, how are they using the color? What are they doing with the color?
With the shapes?
Yes, they have these fluid shapes that look like arrows and curves, but they're using gradients, right?
Right.
Yeah, like they've sort of mapped out a specific kind of gradient and a style of shape. And that means that they can do different shapes that relate, but they feel like they're all part of the same cohesive look. They're also got these white elements sort of knocking out. So it's more than just putting a logo on everything. You're creating a look, a style that carries throughout all the different pieces. All right, here's another example. Bespoke Trading Company. What are the elements that are keeping this cohesive?
The paper texture?
The paper texture, yeah, that's a big part of it. What kind of paper are you printing on? It's natural kind of stock. It's not bleached white. It's not glossy. What do you think that means about their brand? What would be some of the keywords you would say about this?
It makes it look like
Nature.
it. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Rust.
It looks
Rustic,
like it eco-friendly kind of looking.
Mhm.
eco-friendly. Everyone's saying natural, a little bit of vintage. Yes, all those things. So you kind of look at your keywords in your creative brief and then figure out, well, what's the look of my identity package? This cotton string, this little wax seal kind of feels a little bit retro. The typography, right, is another big part of it.
Mhm.
Sort of gives it a retro look. All right, so how do you create a great identity? If you think of your brand like a person, a personality, sometimes that kind of helps. These people all have brands. Martha Stewart famously served time in prison, and yet she recovered fantastically and is a woman in charge of a $1 billion media company. But she maintained her stature by just always being the nice lady from next door who makes cupcakes, right? Even though now I feel like she's so enormously wealthy. When you see her in her kitchen is like unbelievably gorgeous and full of, like an industrial kitchen. And she talks about the servants bringing wood for the fireplace and stuff. It's like, okay. But she's been in this show with Snoop Dogg. Anybody seen that?
I've seen like clips of it. It looks pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, well, what makes it work is that both she and Snoop Dogg have clearly defined brands and clearly defined brand personalities. So neither one sort of overshadows the other, and they can sort of play off each other in a fun way. Confident, successful people tend to get along with other confident, successful people. All right, so as you look at your keywords and you start to think about how you're going to create your identity package, I want you to think about these areas of visual exploration. And the first one is nature. Now, nature may be an important part of your brand, or it may be a thing that you're not part of at all. But either way, you sort of think about, how does nature fit into my brand? Is it natural? How natural is it? Is it very artificial? Because maybe that's the way you're going to go, but that's one of the things you're thinking about. The next thing is texture. You can use textures such as wood, stone, bark, sand as a background element, as pieces of graphics and things. So consider how you could add some texture. Then there's patterns. Patterns are so fun, and they create an additional element that sort of ties your brand together. And like Ulysses said, the paper texture. So we're not going to actually print these, obviously, but you can find simulated paper texture of different types. Maybe it's very natural, maybe it's rough, maybe it's smooth, maybe it's got different tooth to it, and you can really get into paper, and it's kind of fun. Graphic elements such as borders, little spot illustrations, little dingbats and things. These are all fun elements that you can add. And I would say a lot of times these can come either from your logo or from rejected logos that you didn't use that are similar. And lastly, color. And the color is very unlimited in this project. You have your assigned color, which you're required to use. And other than that, it's up to you what colors you use. You don't have to stick to any one color relationship. You can explore and use gradients and do all the different things that you want to do with color. Let's look at some interesting branding examples. This is Lucy's Fried Chicken. This is another pentagram project by Michael Beirut. What comes to mind when you see this logo? Would you eat there?
Yes.
No.
Ulysses said yes. I think somebody said no.
I would. It looks like your grandma's, like it's that
Mhm.
kind of older looking font. And
Lance said home cooked, grandma, comfort food. Yeah, those are all positive associations, right? Coming out of this logo. All right, here's the neon sign. All right. Furthering the brand. So what words come to mind now?
That's a hot grandma.
That's a nightclub.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a hot. I think that's a hot grandma is exactly
Yeah.
what they want you to say, because this figure is very retro. She looks like something from the 40s.
Mhm.
So she's not comfort food with a touch of cocaine. Uh, she's not a hot stripper. She's retro. It's kind of like this is Lucy back in her heyday, who made fried chicken. So, well, let's think about the associations here, right? So retro, grandma, maybe a bit sinful,
Mhm.
hedonistic. Why would those all be good associations for a fried chicken restaurant?
I don't know that the feeling that like cooking then is so different than what it is now, thinking about health and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And this is going to be like the real deal.
Yes, Cheryl. I think that there's a universal belief that food used to be better. Like if you, grandma's recipe is always the best one, right?
Mhm.
What about like the sinful hedonistic side to it? Appeals to an older crowd with the
Mhm.
old school feel and a younger crowd for the wild side. I think, Lance, that's very astute observation. Yeah, I think it kind of does both those things. It looks fun.
Mhm.
Now, fried chicken is not a health food, right?
No.
So a little hedonistic, it's kind of sinful. It's kind of like you're breaking your diet. So there's that association as well. Do you see how that all is calculated to make it work? You're the place your mom would pick for a family get together. Your mom sounds like an interesting individual, Mr. Lance. Here's the rest of the stuff. Like you see how they use this background of wood. It gives it that retro feel. The typography on the menu, even on the online menu, has an old retro feeling, which is part of what they're pushing. They've got this engraving. They created this little icon, which is like a son of logo, the egg. It's all working together. So we should eat there, Jaeger. uh, it is a fun place. It's not a place you go every day or you'll die, right? All right, here's another one. This is Bone Daddy's Smokehouse. What do you think? Would you eat there?
I don't know. Not with the machete. No, Mr. G. I don't know. I say I would. It depends on what the food is, but it's like I said, it's barbecue, but my stomach don't do too well.
Yes.
Wait.
It is definitely, it's Bone Daddy's Smokehouse Barbecue. So it's definitely barbecue. They're telegraphing that to you. You would drink there, yeah. They do have beer. What would be the keywords you would associate with this brand? Yeah, Lauren says you smell like barbecue for a week. Yes, I think that's true.
I don't know, the design is very funky.
It's funky. It's a little different, right?
Yeah.
This isn't TGI
Yes, it is.
Fridays, right?
No,
Wings. This illustration style is,
loud music.
yeah, jazzy.
Mhm.
It's kind of deep South, New Orleans. Look at the color palette. What is the color palette? Mustard, ketchup, burnt meat, red sauce, mustard sauce. If you're from Carolina, if you're from St. Louis, everyone has their own barbecue, right?
That looked like something from down here, from North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I heard always, if you see a barbecue place on the side of the road, if they don't have a wood pile, you shouldn't eat there. because they're not cooking for real.
I mean, I kind of skip all of it anyway. My mother didn't go there.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a vegetarian, this lets you know this is not for you. Right? It looks like Voodoo Barbecue from New Orleans. Yeah, Lauren, that's pretty good kind of assessment there. Fun illustrations. All right. This is a beer company, Swing Beer. What's the impression you get from Swing Beer? Carnival. Yeah. It looks like a carnival, and I don't really get how the carnival ties into beer. I think this is
It looked like
designed,
sherbet.
yeah, sherbet feeling. It doesn't really connect. So it's branded. It's well designed, pretty well designed, but maybe not.
Barbershop.
What?
It reminds me of barbershop, like a barbershop
Like an
quartet should be coming
old timey barbershop or something. Yeah.
out. Mhm.
Ice cream, Tyler. Yeah, I agree. So you want to make sure your brand sort of like connects with your product in some way. Here's Kate Peters Photography. What kind of photography do you think she does? It's kind of hard to tell, right? Yeah, it could be portrait. Could be anything. This is really well designed, but not strongly branded. Realty. Yeah, in fact, she may be deliberately trying to keep herself open to everything, which in the big picture marketing strategy isn't a good way to go, but as a small photographer, that might be great.
I mean, she had like a punchline or something down there. to
You
give
mean
a-
as in a tagline? That's what you mean.
Yeah, tagline. That's it.
Yeah,
One of the
I got you.
stuff.
All right. Strength through consistency. So here's some identity packages. This is done for an architect. And let's take a look at what we got going on here. So letterhead. Letterhead is essentially just a frame for a letter. The letter gets printed in here, and it's usually printed on a laser printer, so it has to have black ink. So you cannot use a dark color that does not contrast well with black for the letterhead. Now on the back of this page, they use this flood blue, which is kind of cool looking. The logo is the star of the show, and you definitely want to, you've worked really hard on your logo. Now you want to show it off. Keep the information organized kind of out of the way. They use these little pipe elements to sort of keep it all tied together. The envelope, they've got the logo prominent. On the back flap is probably the return address. The business card, they took the icon and blew it up big and cropped it off the side here on the back of the card. Now on the front, they've got the logo and the person's name and title. Those are the next most important things. The rest of the information is organized out of the way. This is like a note envelope. Here's another one. So Finkel Williams Architecture. They have this sort of FW in a yellow square. They did what we call a blind emboss, which is sort of pressing it into the paper without ink down at the bottom. For the envelope, this distinctive yellow color, that works because, you know, obviously black is high contrast on there. It's got the return address on the back flap. This is what we call a catalog envelope or booklet. This is a booklet envelope. Is that right, Sabrina? She'll tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I call it that as well.
Yeah. The back of the card, they put the logo type and a blind embossed icon. And then on the front of the card, no logo, but the person's name and information. You could do that. As long as your full logo appears somewhere on the piece, that's important. This is Lucky Bucket Brewing. So they have this sort of wax seal element that they're using. It's sort of a logo icon. They have logo type, but they also created this ribbon element that is so it has a retro feeling overall. The flap is this flood orange, which is a cool way to go. And this is Motion 504. They're a motion graphics company in Minneapolis. So they're doing this sort of backwoods thing. They got the double stag logo and sort of distressed looking logo. And then they're using this natural paper. These are like standard stationary items that you would get from Home Depot or Office Depot, but they look like they fit, like they were deliberate. And this ice blue, because it's cold in Minneapolis and in Southern Indiana. This one, Club Noble, it kind of looks like a cigar label. It's got this gold foil element, which is really beautiful. They've added this
I like
decorative
that.
border,
Yeah.
which is very subtle on the edge.
Mhm.
And then it's in the business card across here. They got the logo on the back flap there. Capture Studios, they're using a pattern. You see this pattern element?
Mhm.
It's a simple pattern, but it sort of ties into their look, and they've got this distinctive yellow color. Carthage Stoneworks, they've got, it looks like a rubber stamp, like a red. There's two flavors. There's a C and the cross hammers. Their logo is like a cross hammers with a word mark. It feels very retro, right?
Mhm.
Why would retro be good for a Stoneworks?
I guess for the times dealing with the actors. I mean, with the jackhammers, whatever. Because like it got me to feel like John Henry.
Yeah, there's something old timey about working with
Yeah.
stone, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, carpentry it's an old trade, Lauren says. That's right. So being old is an advantage because people believe that it used to be done better. Like old world craftsmen. If they were a cell phone company, it wouldn't be so good, right? Yeah,
Yes,
Lance
go with
says when
that.
you come to masonry, you want guys who know the right way to do it. And that's always the old way. See, he's stating their brand identity. Depends on your union. Yeah. And these actually kind of look like old union logos from turn of the century, last century. What about this paper color? What does that make you think of? Stone, right, Cheryl? Looks like stone. See how that all ties together? Black and white photography, not color. Quikrete. Yeah. Somehow I feel like, Lance, you have experience in the trade, so. He's a dentist, Dental Works. What's your feeling about this? New hip dentist office. Is that a good thing? It's friendly, right? It has
Mhm.
bright colors. It's
Mhm.
attractive.
Yeah.
It looks
maybe-
clean.
Yeah,
It's
it looks
in-
clean.
It's inviting to like a generation, like kind of like the memes or the, sayings thing to get younger people to maybe pay attention
Yes.
to it.
These cards are literally like memes, yeah. So they're saying funny things, but they're doing it with kind of serious looking type,
Mhm.
Mhm.
sort of tongue in cheek, so to speak, for the dentist. Looks like mouthwash, this color. The yellow is really bright, so it doesn't make me think of dingy teeth. Yes, Lance, it moves away from the cold professional feeling you get usually associated with dentists. Yeah, so there's always a fine line there. Like, yeah, you want the dentist to be friendly, but
Mhm.
you don't want them to be funny. You want them to be serious about what they do. All right, let's look at one more. Charleston Naturally. So this is for Charleston, South Carolina. And the logo looks like a little crane made out of leaves. What do these lines here look like? Just these lines at the bottom of the letterhead.
Hairs.
Hairs. Water, yeah. Charleston has a lovely bay and it's gentle waves, right? But they're really just lines. But what a great element. It separates the info from the body of the letter, but it looks like waves. Now stand it upright and now it looks like seagrass.
Mhm.
the paper texture, the paper stock is very natural. It's got little speckle elements into it. There's this soft green, really nice. The business card has a die cut that makes it look like a leaf. And this is what we call blind embossed with the logo. It looks like you would find this on the beach. The paper looks like a natural paper. Yeah, natural would be definitely one of the keywords for this, right?
Mhm.
So just look at your keywords as you go through this. A spa-like feeling, Lauren, I agree, yeah. It feels relaxing. This isn't like going to Vegas. This is a relaxing time by the bay. And if you're lucky, a low country boil. This is all the stuff that could go on a business card, believe it or not. I've had to put a ton of stuff on business cards, but really what you want to focus on is the person's name and title. You're going to have the company name in the logo. The rest of the information, address, phone number, email, web address, can get organized sort of out of the way. Keep your typography simple. Don't go crazy adding a lot of distracting effects. You're trying to create a certain kind of look. So anything that doesn't serve the look, you don't want to have in there. Letterhead, 8.5 by 11. You'll notice there are 3 lines here, and that's part of the template. There's what we call bleed, trim, and safety. And that's part of printing. I'll go into that a little more later. Envelope, stamp goes up here. They print a barcode down here. The back of the envelope, it could either have a pointed or a square flap. When it comes to letterhead, you might have the logo, the address, the phone numbers, the web address. On an envelope, just the logo, address, maybe the web address. And this is the template. Now, when you look at the template, like I said, there's bleed, trim, and safety. When you print something, if it has color that goes to the edge, you actually want it to go beyond where it cuts to what they call the bleed edge. And that's so that when the printer trims it off, there's no chance of there being a little white edge where the color didn't reach. The safety is like a margin that you want everything inside that. Now in letterhead, I would definitely have like a 1-inch margin on all sides. Maybe the info could be close to the bottom, but give it some margin. You don't have to fill the page. A light touch on letterhead is better. This template here, in case you're wondering, is not required for the assignment, but it is, if you wanted to print out and construct your own envelope, you could use this, believe it or not. So that's just sort of a bonus thing. So you're going to do the front and back of an envelope, a letterhead, horizontal and vertical business cards. That's what you're doing by Sunday. Any questions about this at the moment?
No.
No.
And by the way, this Illustrator template is linked to your InDesign file. So when you go to the page where it exists, where the business card is, you can say edit original. And if you don't change the name or save it somewhere else, it will remain linked, and it will update in InDesign. Yes, you're making it in Illustrator. All right, let's talk about color. As you design your identity package, you're going to experiment with color, and I want you to try a lot of different options to see what works and what reflects your brand and what doesn't. Only after you've sort of come to the conclusion of what you want will you spec out your color palette. Now, you have this page in your template. It's not called color palette. It's called color exploratory. And all this is a way to take your assigned color and sort of see what the color relationships are to it. It does not in any way dictate your color palette. You could say, I like the tetrad, but you got to have 5 colors, so you'd add another color. Or maybe this pentagram, but I don't like the blue, so I'll change it to something else. Or you could ignore this altogether. Every month, students say, well, I'm stuck with pentagram and I can't make it work. You're not stuck with anything. You can, this is just a kickoff, a little exercise to get you going. And from there, it's up to you. This is an example of a color palette. When you do this, you're going to start with Pantone. It's actually reversed order now. So Pantone's first, then CMYK, then RGB. And the reason for that is Pantone has the fewest number of colors. So you want to start with that, and then you can replicate those colors for CMYK and RGB. And this is only after you've decided on your colors. Now, if you look at this palette that this student did, there's a bit of a strategy here. So they took their assigned color and looked at the complement, but made it a lighter tone of that tint, a darker tone, an even darker tone, and a dark tone of the original. So there's a relationship here. There is variation in both hue, different colors, and value, light and dark. You need to have both light and dark and different values. And different hues. Makes sense? So if you have a letterhead, you've got to have type read on it. So something's got to be light, something's got to be dark. You can think about warm and cool colors and all that as you go forward. Now, here's the big message. You must have 5 colors in your color palette. You may be doing your logo and say, well, my logo only has 2 colors. That's fine. Come up with a 5-color palette. You will use it before the end of the month. And that's a typical color palette, 5 colors. Also, no black and no white. They are gimmies. They're not part of your color palette. So 5 colors, that starts, you're starting with your original color and creating 4 other colors to play with it. And then no black and no white. Everyone got it?
Yes.
Everyone who's present got it. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Look at, yes, go ahead.
So do we select the colors for the color palette kind of the same way that we did the other assignment that we had this whole week?
It's totally up to you what colors you pick. You're not beholden to any specific color relationship like you were with the hero portrait.
Okay, but to complete that exercise or whatever, we can use that method.
Complete you mean the color exploration part?
Yes.
You can look at that and decide if you want to use some of those colors, yes, but you can also go away from them and not use them. It's up to you.
Okay.
5 colors is a typical palette, and I see this, you see this all the time. They'll always tell you that. These are the levers of color that you're sort of moving around. Hue, where you are on the color wheel, and the only one that's dictated is your assigned color. Saturation, how much white you add, how much black you add, brightness, and what is the temperature? Maybe your palette's warm, maybe it's cool. It's up to you to decide. So get some inspiration. I'm just going to show you some ideas for inspiration. So first one is nature. If you look at nature, you'll get ideas. If your product is related to nature or natural or something, you definitely want to look at nature. There's just such at this point, you're starting to become a student of color, as we talked about in the beginning, a devotee. And you're going to look at it everywhere and think about how it's used, how it appears, what's going on. This is a picture I took at Palmer's Nursery near here. Do you know that place, Sabrina?
I'm not familiar with it. I've been to Lucas Nursery. Is it similar?
Yeah, this is actually on in Audubon Park, and it's right on the busy road, Corinne. Like you'd never believe trucks are whizzing by here, and it just
So
looked.
near Lou Gardens then?
Yes, right near there.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
It's every time I see this picture, it's just like, yeah, that's right there. Anyway, look at great photographers. This is Annie Leibovitz. She did a series for Disney. There's the Little Mermaid. Fashion. The world of fashion is full of color and color predictions. Sabrina has been dutifully updating us on the Pantone Color of the Year. And this is Tilda Swinton. Anybody recognize her? It's from Women's World Daily, by the way. I thought this was a very cool photo. She was in one of my campus students got it right away. Said Narnia. She was the Ice Queen in Narnia. Depends on how old you are. Whether you... She was also in Moonrise Kingdom. She played social services.
Wait, didn't she play that in Legion? No, not Legion.
Yeah.
Constantine, right?
I think she was in that. She was also in a Marvel one.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. That's it. She's in there
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, she was in Constantine and Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. Wow.
Anyway, you may say you're not into fashion that much. Well, now you are because you're a designer. You're going to look at it. This is from the 2018 Oscar party. The Oscars, these award shows happen every year, and I always watch them to see the outfits, the clothing, the color. Any idea why in 2018 these women were all wearing black? Yeah, it is about texture, not the color. So no one remembers. It's too far in the past now. 2018.
Apparently.
This was part of a protest movement called Time's Up, which was protesting sexual harassment in Hollywood.
Yeah, remember.
Now you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't remember, but
Yeah.
I believe you.
But you can see that as a protest going to black, it's like in the Western culture, black is a mourning color, you know, as in being sad and mourning something sad happening. But it's still Hollywood, so there's some bling stuff going on. Like Yeager said, texture. That's Charlie Yeager. I'm calling you by your last name because it's a. This is the 2019 Golden Globes. So color came back, but it was kind of dark colors. This kind of metallic gray almost. It's still a somber kind of look. But of course, there was the star of the show. Anybody remember this?
No, sir, but I do know who it is.
Yes. Stars Born. That was a year.
Yeah, Star is Born. Lady Gaga. Now, this color really did stand out as a different color from everybody else. And I think definitely there was some thought as about how it contrasted with the red carpet. It's the blue in Carolina blue. It is that Carolina blue. I know what you're talking about. And her hair matches. All right, this was 2020. She went to black again. I think she's always trying to be different. There's Regina King. I love Regina King's name. Regina means queen, and her last name's King. She's Queen King. This
That she
is.
does it all.
She does do it all. Oscars 2020. Again, absence of color. These are things you kind of look at. You look at trends, you try to understand what's going on. Like these stylists are really in touch. They're all the Pantone color trends affect these people and vice versa. The whole world of fashion is just very in touch with color. So take a look. All right. When I put colors together, they have to join a living chord, like a musical chord or harmony. Matisse said this. Henri Matisse loved color. He did some amazing work. And he was very prolific. Just worked and worked and worked, and had this sensibility that feels kind of a bit of France and Mediterranean and brightness. So these are things that I look at for inspiration. Picasso's Rival, yeah, Rival. They all sort of created a movement together in many ways. I was talking this morning about his paper cutouts. When he was in the hospital, he couldn't paint. So he just got scissors and paper and he started doing these amazing cutout artwork. And I gotta find it. I have it somewhere. Matisse paper. There we go. Images. Just look at some of this work. I mean, you talk about Picasso, like this was that bordering on surrealism, beautiful stuff. I mean, in the hospital while he was sick. Anyway. Another artist that I really admire is Andrew Wyeth. Andrew Wyeth is an American painter from the mid 20th century. This is from 1948. It's called Christina's World. Christina Olson was his neighbor who lived next door, and she could not walk. This painting is most often cited as an example of dynamic composition because it's got this very high horizon line and the figure sort of pointing at the farmhouse. So there's definitely like this great composition going on. But I want you to look at this grass, right? So this is Maine in the early spring, maybe. Dead grass, brown, right? But when you look at more closely, you can see this undulating color, blue, orange, green, yellow throughout. It creates this realistic look because nothing in nature is just one color. He scratched the grass onto the board. It's painted on a board and he sort of scratched it out, you can see. But the color is just so rich and it gives it that realism. The sky, it's like a white sky, but not really. You sense the clouds. There's a bit of green, a bit of blue, all that in there. Yes. The green from yeah, and she's wearing a pink dress, which is kind of like an opposite color. This blue-green farmhouse. Even this little lone piece of fabric on the clothesline, very lonely. Anyway, compelling work. Here's another artist I like, Albert Bierstadt. Bierstadt was a German-American immigrant. He came to the United States in the mid 19th century, and he went out to the American West and did these incredible, huge paintings of the American West. He was part of what they called the Hudson River School, and they created this sort of luminosity on the canvas. If you can imagine, before electric light, these canvases just seemed to glow with their own light. People,
beautiful.
yeah, people paid $0.25 to go in and see them, and they sort of spurred on the westward expansion. People were like, I want to go see that. This is his painting of the domes of Yosemite. And I think this, I don't know Yosemite that well, but I think this is El Capitan there. Anybody in California? It looks just like this. This is like 15 feet tall, this canvas. Back to France. This is Gauguin, another artist I love, and he was a bank teller till he was 40, and then he moved to Tahiti. If you look at these floorboards here, these wooden boards, look at the rich color, turquoise, orange, yellow, bounce light of green going off, different fabrics that have this bright color, this bright yellow, beautiful mangoes that go from red to green. So think about your inspiration. Yes, Gauguin, Van Gogh's brother paid Gauguin to teach Van Gogh to paint. And they spent 9 weeks together living in the same house. Supposedly Van Gogh drove him crazy cooking beans or something. I don't know. I got to brush up on my art history. so your inspiration, you should be building this up as you go along. It can be fine art, it could be movies, it could be video games, it could be web designs, it can be things you look at on Pinterest, things you look at on Behance. Be constantly looking and seeing how people use color. So when you do your palette, your assigned color is sort of the hero. When you think about it, it's like a relationship, like a family. Each color has a different purpose in the mix. Some are background, some are foreground, some are accents. It's up to you to sort of figure that out. We talk about hierarchy in design, and typically that means like the most prominent thing on the page, the biggest thing on the page gets the most attention, right? But in the world of color, the smallest thing can get the most attention. Sort of flips the script. This is work of Jessica Heish, who's this beautiful type designer. You see how she creates a focal point with the sparse use of color. This is another one where it creates drama, focuses you in. Experiment. That's part of what you're doing with the identity package. You're trying out a lot of different colors to see what works together and what doesn't. Don't settle down too quickly, but once you settle down, then you're going to spec your palette. So you don't have to do that till then. This is more work by Jessica Heish. You can see this is a triadic color palette, red, yellow, blue, but it doesn't feel triadic because the red is very dark, rich blue, red and deep, rich blue, and a very pale yellow. Here's another one by her where if this was orange, purple, and green would be a secondary triadic, but she broke out of that with this blue that works really well.
Beautiful.
What did you say?
That was beautiful.
Yeah, I really like her work. This is another one by her. So again, red, yellow, blue would be primary triadic, but instead of yellow, it's a yellow green. So don't get stuck in a color relationship. It's like dating advice. Yeah, Omar used to say, my studio artist Omar always said, don't get married too quickly to a color palette. If you know the story of Matilda, she's this little girl who has these sort of magical abilities, and she goes to this horrible school that is oppressive. So you can see the background is this gray chalkboard, slate. It's not black. And then the colors pop out from that background with this sort of magical feeling. Colors give aid in messaging. They group things together. If you see this, like for instance, in this, the design is very exactly the same, but the color is different. And you could tell what flavor these were, even if you couldn't read, right? You get a sense of it. Organize, work together, like these coffees, different brands of coffee. I say it every time, start with the Pantones, because that's the most limited, then the CMYK, then the RGB. Here, hold on, we're sort of running out of time here. Oh yeah, I'll just show this one. This is another Jessica Heish. Now, I love the gradients in this. If you've ever mixed paints together, like when you're in kindergarten, if you mix two complementary colors together, what do you get? Brown, yeah, mud. They usually kind of cancel each other out. Now this has a gradient that goes from a sort of orange to blue, which are complements, but it works really well. It's very well executed so that it just feels like there's a warm light hitting this blue surface. Even these gradients, they don't really go to that mud in the middle. So gradients, there's a lot of craftsmanship in this particular one. I think is worth looking at. So remember, hue, saturation, brightness, temperature. You're considering all these aspects of the color palette that you create. Now, I'm going to go look at the assignment with you before we wrap it up. There we go, week 3. All right, first up, color relationships. This should take you no more than maybe 10-15 minutes to do. And this is just an exploratory to get an idea of how your colors work. Don't get stressed out over this. If you're having trouble with any part of this, you can reach out on Slack. Obviously, I want you to do it, but this should not take the majority of the week. This should be a quick thing to sort of get you started. And then there's a video showing you how to do that. And then you get into the identity package, and there's the template. This is a video that tells you how to use the identity template. And then once you get your design, you're going to submit your designs to the discussion for feedback. Once you get close to finishing this, like you think, this is it, I got it. That's when you say, okay, what are my colors? And you're going to spec them out in this. It's actually reversed. So it'll say Pantone at the top, CMYK, and then RGB. And you're going to put in all these numbers. And there's a video here showing you how to do that. If at any point you're having trouble with InDesign, there's this little resource for InDesign issues. And that is it for the week. Then you're submitting that, getting 100 points and feeling great about life. Any questions? All right, Lance, page 15.
I feel confident.
Yeah. Let's see.
But we'll see later down the week.
All right. So here's where you're at. I think what you're thinking about is your final logo. So as I said before, I'm behind on my grading a little bit. So if you have a logo that you think is your favorite, go ahead and put it into page 16. You will then do the color exploratory. You can then create your color logo, put that on page 18. And then skip this page for the moment and go into the identity package. Now here it says business card. So if I click on this and say edit original, it opens Illustrator and there's my template. When you open the template for this, look at the layers, create your own layer for the design and work on that. Leave the other layers alone. Now, this envelope layer has the individual pieces of the envelope. If you wanted to, this is green because I was doing a demo this morning with it. But those are the pieces. You can copy these to a new layer. By the way, if you ever want to copy things to another layer, like I'm going to select all these pieces and I want to take them to my design, I hold down the Option key, go to this little square here and drag it up. And now I've made a duplicate of it on the design layer. See that?
Yeah.
And then you can start coloring things. There is, let's see.
The only question I have real fast, for that logo that was in there for like the card, the ones that we did the last time, right? When we put the
logo
images
test?
on yeah, like the logo test. Yeah. Can we use that stuff, the information that we did, or we have to make something
Yes.
else?
No, you can use that. One of the reasons for doing that is you can copy it over here.
Okay.
Just don't leave what's here. Don't leave anything that's already there. Replace everything with your own stuff.
Like different colors and all that stuff.
Yes, you can add textures. You can add patterns. You know, like if you wanted to have, say you wanted to have a wood pattern or something, you could place. Wait, I think I have a library with it. Backgrounds. Let's see. I don't have a lot of great backgrounds here. Say I want to use this pattern. I got to go to a layer that's not locked. I'll go to my design layer and drag a pattern out. This is the Full Sail PR background. I'm going to scale this down. Now, if I want to use this as a background somewhere, I could just create a mask based on the shape of, like, say, this business card. I'll create a mask. I'm going to put this up here, select both items, Command 7, that makes a mask, and then I have a pattern. And then I can put designs on top of that. So instead of that full sail pattern, I could use a wood texture. Maybe, oh, shoot, sorry. You can collect wood textures and stuff. There's all kinds of free stuff out there for you to get. So have at it. Think about those different elements, maybe elements of nature. Now I'm going to show you an example, a student example quick before we wrap up. So
Okay. Yes. Sir.
this is Tiffany's. She did wasabi chocolate, and her templates looks a little different because this is from a while ago, 2018. We changed it since then. She had some design experience, but her template looks really good. These are her sketches. So among her sketches, we kind of liked this wasabi monster, this flame, and the ninja. So she took those into Illustrator, as you have just done, worked them out, and then came to this conclusion, like 1, 2, 3. We like this one, but not using it as the W. Instead, she created this logo here. Now, the wasabi monster was rejected as a logo, but she kept it as a secondary element, a character. So you can look at some of your logos and say, well, I'm not going to use that for my logo, but maybe it create a different element, a different part. So when she gets to her designs, she used it as a pattern, a sort of monochromatic, low contrast pattern. So it works behind there. It's using it as a watermark here. And you can see how it starts to tie everything together because she's got the pattern. It's not overshadowing the logo. It's keeping sort of a mostly monochromatic look. But then there's a
Just like
pattern.
the asset.
And you see how that all works together. It starts to feel like a cohesive brand. I'll show you another example. This is Jonathan's for Crikey Coffee. So Australian coffee. Among his logos, he ended up with this crocodile, the surfer, a kangaroo, 1, 2, 3, and we went with the crocodile. Color exploratory, as you're going to do. And there's his logo. Now, he had an extensive color palette. You can have more than 5 colors if you want. You kind of want to focus it. This is a little much. I would sort of group these into primary and secondary colors, but so then it comes to his business card. So he's got his logo and he's using it as an icon here, but he's also got this additional sort of botanical element, which really helps to sort of tie it together a bit. This yellow color stands out. It's a very bright, cheery kind of look. But you can see how when you put it all together, it feels like what I would call a family resemblance. Like they're not the same thing, but they feel like they go together. You guys getting this?
Mm-hmm.
You want to see one more?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's Jessica's. Jessica did Madeira chocolate. And you can see, I'll go back to look at her elements. So she has this sort of vine element in her logo going around the key. So she created a vine element to go on the letterhead there. So it relates. It's not the same, but it relates. She wanted to experiment with a little gold foil there. And you can see the key has the letter M on it. It's kind of cool. And then these plant elements, the vine ties it all together. And there it is, sort of all coming together. Color is a big part. Secondary elements such as patterns, rules, borders, graphics, pieces of the logo. You really get to have some fun this week. Is that helpful? Is everyone feeling excited and inspired? Lauren's good.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All
Yeah,
right. I'm
is
glad
good.
you're excited, Lance. We will see. So I hope to see some great work on Thursday, and looking forward to seeing it.